Today we are going to talk about one of the best Necron stratagems in the Codex, and it's coming right up.
Necrons!
Tactical Corner.
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Well, actually it isn't a video, it's a live stream, but I'm taking a clip from the live stream just for you. And today we are talking about a Necron stratagem, a stratagem which I haven't really used very much at all, if ever, apart from in my recent army list. And I can tell you now, it is really good. So let's go table down and have a look at it. Okay, so this is the stratagem Enslaved Protectors. It's 1 CP. Use this stratagem in your opponent's charge phase. Select one Canoptic unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, that unit is eligible to perform heroic interventions as if it was a character. Now, my recent army includes 3 Canoptic spiders, and I can tell you now, this stratagem served me so well. So my tactic for these spiders is to have a unit of scarabs at the front with the spiders behind, and then trailing behind them I've got a Technomancer with the control node, and then the Technomancer has the failsafe overcharger to give me D3 extra attacks, really nice, and also the control node to give me +1 to hit, so I'm hitting on 3s. Then I take the guns on all of the spiders as well, so they hit on 3s with all of their guns, and then obviously they hit on 3s in close combat. They get 5 attacks each plus a D3 attacks for each spider. And I've noticed that this stratagem has just done so well for me, because on several occasions what's happened is my scarabs at the front have been assaulted, and then I've used this stratagem, heroically intervened for 1 CP, and I've got my spiders into close combat. And people aren't expecting this. It's not something you would expect to see. Now you can see me doing this in this battle report here against Richard and his Space Wolves. He comes in and he attacks my spiders, and then I just heroically intervene. Now admittedly, Richard, it probably isn't going to fall into this trap a second time, because it is a bit of a got you moment, but I can tell you now it worked really well, and it worked really well for me in my tournaments when I was playing Tyranids. So I had some Hormagaunts charge down the table, and they assaulted my scarabs, and then I intervened with my spiders. And if you, depending on the order of assault, I mean, you may potentially get to hit with your spiders first. If not, you can potentially use 2 CPs and interrupt. Get those spiders hitting first, because they are strength 8 -3 and 2 damage, and you can do some nasty work using this stratagem. And it's something which your opponent hasn't planned for, because you know that they haven't assaulted your spiders for a reason. They've assaulted those scarabs instead, and all of a sudden they've got 3 Canoptic spiders punching them in the face. Indeed, I've never used it in the past, and this is the thing. I play Canoptic Wraiths all the time, but never actually use this stratagem because, well, I don't usually heroically intervene full stop. I mean, our characters aren't that tanky in close combat to want to get them into close combat. So it's never on my agenda, but it's not until I started to use these Canoptic spiders that this stratagem has come into its own. And in the right list, it's a very powerful stratagem. It really is. For some reason I was thinking they had to heroically intervene with characters, but I guess they can do it to anyone, right? They can do it to a Canoptic unit. So you've got to have a Canoptic unit within 3 inches of the assaulting unit, effectively. So it turns the Canoptic units into not a character, but they have the ability, like a character, to heroically intervene. Jeff says, I know way back when you used to have spiders and scarab heavy armies, do you think that is viable again? I think it certainly is viable. It's the most viable it's been for a very long time anyway, because spiders are very, very good now. And scarabs are still very good. So it certainly works. I mean, you can't scarab farm as much as you used to in the old days. I mean, that was awesome in the old days. And that's why I've got 63 scarab bases, because you started with 30 scarab bases, 3 units of 10, and then the spiders generated units each turn. Pretty sure that's how it worked. Yeah. So I mean, it used to be fantastic in the old days. It's more, you know, it's viable now. Now the fact that spiders have got core, spiders are just so much better. Being able to give them that +1 to hit, you know, hitting on 3s is like a huge difference to hitting on 4s. And yes, they have no invulnerable save, but they've got that toughness 6 with 6 wounds. You could use a Chronomancer and give them a 5+ invulnerable save, but I don't think it's necessary, especially obviously with the Technomancer, with rights of reanimation, getting those back. You could potentially use Illuminor, Illuminor to give them that extra buffs, but I think I'm more inclined to have 2 Technomancers still than Illuminor, but some playtesting will be needed there. Scarabs are one of the best units in my opinion. They certainly are. I mean, the Scarabs, you just can't go wrong with Scarabs. And I've talked about Scarabs previously, but the fact that you can either take a very small unit of 3 for hardly any points, and they can do a lot of work, right the way up to a medium-sized unit works well, and a big-sized unit works well. That's what I like about flayed ones as well. You can have like a small unit of 5, you can have like a medium unit, 8 to 12, or you can have a big unit, and they all work in different ways, but they all work. Whereas some units, I'm not even going to name a unit, but yeah, some units just don't work in certain sizes as well. You know, there's optimal sizes for them. For me, let's take Wraiths for example. I know a few people use units of 3 Wraiths, but personally I just don't find they do the business, because the idea of Wraiths obviously is survivability, and you've got to have the model count to have that survivability to be able to sort of reanimate basically. Spiders for the win. I totally agree, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments box below. If you haven't seen one of my live streams before, here's a playlist with all of my live streams in for you to check out next.